Hi, this is Sue Lee, and Shawn and I are going to work together to figure out a way to pull out some of the questions. We can't answer them all, of course, and we'll probably have it spread out over a time frame. Excuse my voice. I've been sick for 3 days. 3 days and 3 nights. That's supposed to mean something, right? Isn't that what everyone does? They go into the inner depths for 3 days and 3 nights and come back and they know everything. Well, I don't know everything. Didn't
Not
work.
just yet. Maybe it's there. It's just waiting
Yeah.
to come into your consciousness.
Okay, good. That's good to know. Okay, great. So Shauna's just going to ask the questions, and then I'll be the Arcturians. It's going to sound like they have a cold too, but here we go. Shauna, you got number one?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of questions, so we're just going to pick a few. Let's begin with a question concerning connecting to higher self and being guided. A reader says, I do not think of it as by chance that I'm attracted to your messages and such material. But apart from blogs and sites and books, etc., I do not have a direct way of communicating with higher dimensional beings. In the current situation, I want to have someone to guide me closely whenever I ask. But I'm just an ordinary human being with ordinary capabilities. I do not even begin to understand meditation until now. How can people like me get to know or meet their higher self and be guided?
Okay, that's a great question. Everyone that is now channeling and talking to higher beings are normal people, and they did start off like people like you. So, and I started off like a normal people like you. And now the meditating is kind of a part of it, but you don't have to call it official meditating. Basically, what that means is that you put aside. Now, the Arcturians are telling me to answer this question because this is how I, as a normal person, started. And what I did is that I put aside a certain time that I would try to do as many days as I could. I looked at my work schedule, put in as many of those days as I could, and I went into a room because my daughter had gone to school, so I finally had some time. And so I went down there, same time, same place. I gathered different spiritual information, and I read something spiritual for 15, 20 minutes. And then I just closed my eyes and relaxed. And when I closed my eyes and relaxed, I just allowed different thoughts and experiences to come into my mind. And the first being that I talked to were actually the Antaurians. And the Arcturians were not the first. And I just kind of talked with these. I didn't know who was an Antarian, but these beings were talking to me. And then the Pleiadians came in. And then I started talking to the Pleiadians. And then the Pleiadians showed me this thing where I went to this place and I put my hands on this thing. Oh, there's this SK7 that I talked to for as before. And then I put my hands on this place and this portal opened and then the Arcturians came in. And so it was a process. I meditated for quite a while before I, or whatever you want to call it, because it wasn't any kind of official. At that point, I had not had one single meditation class. Later on, I had more of them. And I would suggest to all of you, take as many meditation classes as you can, because besides being really fun, it really helps you to discover the best way for you to go inside of your own self. So, Shawnna, do you think I answered that? Is there any other parts of it you think were unanswered?
No, I think that's good. And I think that's a good question too, because a lot of people are, feeling that pull to connect with their higher guidance. And, the best way to begin is to refine your mind and emotions and thought forms. And that's definitely an inherent part of meditation. However, each person is unique, so their gifts are different. The way they connect is different. So they'll just be, figuring out what works for them as they go forward.
Yes, and I took probably 3 meditation classes before I was ready to meditate on my own. So don't feel bad if you're like, oh, what's this meditation? Take a class. There's always classes. Did you ever take classes, John?
No, I think how did I come across the first? I actually began with visualization meditations. I think it
Right.
was,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, recommended by Oprah, I think. And I'm like, I'm going to try that. So I discovered that that was a good way to get me started. And now I have my own methods of, quick connection, just like a lot of us are feeling that enhanced frequency. So it's easier than ever to reach that state of consciousness.
It is definitely easier than ever. Okay, but at the same time, the darkest night is just before dawn, so it's easier than ever to get to that connection. But at the same time, there's more confusion. So
And
everything is
distractions.
brighter, stronger, louder, and in Technicolor now.
That's right.
So, okay, next question.
Okay. A reader asked, I'd like to know if I should talk about E.T.s openly and publicly. And does E.T. disclosure, and do the best that I can to assist that initiative, while at the same time knowing that I could possibly be harmed or a target for um, malintent. What suggestions do you have on
Oh, that's a
disclosure,
good
personal
question.
disclosure, and
Yeah, and there's like 3 components, and maybe you can break it down. What was that first component? The first thing that she said.
speaking about our galactic family openly and publicly?
Okay. No, you don't. No. Do you think that I'm at the grocery store and I'm talking to people about galactics? No. Um, and could I talk to a single member of my family? Absolutely never, never, never. Okay. How many friends do I have that I can talk to about that? Count them on one hand. Husband, he can take a little bit of information, but not a whole lot. It's like, okay, good. That's enough now. Okay. So you have to really be sensitive because this can be frightening to people. So you're not going to go up to somebody in the grocery store and say, hey, did you hear the latest things about the E.T.s? And go, whoa, she's crazy. This is still how the reality that we live in. So you kind of have to be careful. Now, one of the things that I've always said to people is that the fact that you are getting information means that your third eye and higher hearing is open more than you might think that they are. So you can use that to actually kind of psychically feel or psychically look through your third eye, however you want to call it, at somebody. And you can then see their aura and you can see whether or not, like if you see that there's a little break between the top of their head and their aura, no, they are totally not ready for that information. So you really need to look with your third eye and feel with your high heart to determine whether or not those people are ready for that information. And if they aren't, then don't tell them. And you can always start off with, what do you think about all this ED stuff that's going on? I don't. How do you feel about galactics? Okay, you haven't said anything, but then they can say, oh, I think it's the silliest thing ever. Or, wow, I think it's really cool. There you go. Shawnna, you want anything to add anything to that?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting discussion and this is actually recently brought up in our leadership group, and we, discuss things like this, and we were trying to figure out, what makes sense to share with our family members. And sometimes, we receive guidance that, we are to tell our families about it, and how we decide to do that is maybe up to us. And like you said, maybe it's just a little, a tidbit of truth or a seed that can be planted to create an expanded awareness when the time is right. And they'll maybe a little light goes off in their head and like, oh, I'll have to check that out. But each person's different, so you'll have to see what makes sense to share with each person. It's unique.
Yes, and what the Arcturians have said many times is that we're like Johnny Appleseed, and we're going around the world, and we're dropping little seeds. And sometimes that seed, and then there's the parable from the Bible. Sometimes the seed will land on a harsh rock and it's burnt and it can't grow. Sometimes the seed will fall into the water and it's too much water and it drowns and it can't grow. But sometimes the seed drops right on perfect soil with a perfect amount of water, and then that seed will grow. So you can just drop your seeds, and you just drop the seed, and you find out what your seed is. But also, remember, I might have said this already, but remember that you can use your third eye to look at somebody and look at the top of their head. If there's a little disconnect between the energy field above their head and their actual head, they're not ready yet. So that's okay. It's not your job. You don't have to prepare them. They're going to prepare them. Please don't try to prepare anyone, because this is really out there stuff for a lot of people. So you're best to just wait until they get to that first part on their own, and then you can share it with them. What do you think about that, Shawnna?
Yeah, I think yeah, I mean, each person, if they're ready and they're willing, will be open when the time is appropriate. And everybody has their own awakening schedule, and if it's not their time, eventually that will happen. But it's not for us to impose that information upon others. Just to sense that if they're ready to have a little boost of information, that's where we can assist.
And also, sometimes I remember one time I was in a dock in Northern California, which seems like it's like, pretty kind of redneck place. And this person yelled out across the dock some spiritual thing about about spaceships. And I turned around and thought, wow, I would never in a million years think that somebody like this, but he was a fisherman, and he's a fisherman and he's out with nature all day long. So it depends. You never can tell. Sometimes you're surprised by the people that are really interested in this.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting if we imagine every person on the planet, and I'm sure everybody has a personal story to share, but we have fear within ourselves to discuss these things. And that's, some programming that's been built in along the way, I'm sure, to keep us from feeling like we can share openly. And that leads to the next part of the question, which was about, should we hold fear about any repercussions for sharing truths like these?
Okay, I'm going to bring in the Arcturians. Now, the question of should we hold fear, there's two parts of the question. One is, should we hold fear? Now, the answer to that is no. You should really, really set your intention to not hold fear. Now, that does not mean should you not have fear, because fear is a warning. Fear is not a bad thing. Fear is a warning. But it's like a ding, ding, ding. But if your whole life said ding, 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 then how would you know that fear is a warning? Because you always have that fear in your life. So you need to clear out all the fear so that when there is a warning, you are able to receive it. Fear is not a bad thing. Fear is just a warning. Fear says, look out, be careful. Oops, don't do that. Turn right. Don't turn left. And then there's certain kinds of warnings that you will get, such as the turn right, and then you find out that there was an accident. If you'd have turned left, you would have been in that accident. But you heard turn right and you turned right. So Shawnna is having an event with her cat right now. I think the cat just wants to kid. Her cats, she's got like a slew of them. And cats are so cute, because I've had so many privates where the cats come in and they walk right in between the person and the computer. They want to be a part of the energy field. So just let the cat come on up, stop worrying about it. The cat
He's
wants
in
to know
here.
what's going on. Cats are really psychic.
He's in here wreaking havoc, and at least we got your birds to calm down a little bit too. So that's a good.
Well, I had to cover them up, so you might have to put your cat outside.
I know. It's an active day for the animal kingdom for
Yes,
sure.
it is. Yes. Well, they like this conversation
They
because
do.
they have telepathic communication all the time.
Mm-hmm. They're good teachers.
Yeah, they are. Okay, next question.
Okay. From the reader. Dear Council, I'm confused and moved when it is said that we have come to help in the ascension of Gaia. Have we come simultaneously to aid our ascension or not? After all, in the energy unit, Gaia and humans are all one.
I really like the part about Gaias and humans are all one. And now I'm speaking, the Arcturians are speaking through me right now, but that's not exactly them. People say, I want to ascend. I want out of here. Okay, I want out of here. It's not what creates ascension. Ascension means that one has given up their whole for a greater good. Look at the ascended beings. Look at what happened with Buddha. Look what happened with Jesus. Look what happened with Muhammad. All of the ascended beings, they went through a process. Being ascended is not a walk in the park. Being ascended is that you really take a good look at yourself and that you think of something that is bigger and more important than yourself. So I think I lost track of what the question was when I asked.
Right. It's about concerning the ascension of Gaia and how it's simultaneously
The Gaia and
aiding
Earth,
our
yes.
personal ascension.
And so as soon as one, like personal ascension is very often, I want out of here, I'm sick of it. Okay, that you don't ascend because you're sick of it. You ascend because you have given to your planet, to your reality, to your culture, to your people, the very, very best of you. And that you have so beloved whoever you have assisted, that you have given of yourself when you are tired, when you are hungry, when you are sick. Ascension is not easy. And planetary ascension is even more difficult because not only is one person lifting their one person, all the people that are able to embrace the concept of ascension and daring enough to believe in themselves and believe in their own inner guidance, if they all band together and they band together with Gaia, now that is what creates an ascension energy field.
Okay, yeah, and that follows the theme of the next question. I think that leads into this discussion about how some of the blog posts that you've had have been about Gaia being in distress and how we grounded ones are needed to help her ascend, yet the new earth already exists outside of time in the fifth dimension and beyond. They're confused about how Gaia could be in danger if her fifth dimensional expression has always existed. Can you please clarify?
Gaia is a multidimensional planet, just as her people are multidimensional people. And there is a frequential journey where people think that ascension is some kind of leaving. Ascension is not about leaving. Ascension is about speeding up the frequency of who you are. Now, just as people have higher selves that are expressions of them, Gaia has a higher planetary self that is a higher expression of her. All of reality is multidimensional. So that seems like that answers part of your question, but not all of it. What would you think?
Yeah, I think it's helpful to understand what that term is and how we interpret what we call ascension. And that was a good explanation of the higher frequency and how I guess she has a higher dimensional planetary expression. So that expression is what has always existed and always will. But this is the planet itself reaching a new heightened frequency to become that.
Well, it's a return. Ascension is really a return. Just like humans have all these different, they have their third dimensional self, fourth dimensional, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. And the planet Gaia chose to lower her frequency down into a rate where it would be a third dimensional frequency. And this is a frequency where there is separation between good and bad. And this is a separate frequency where there is time. And this is a frequency where there is cause and effect. And that's her third dimensional self. So just like we as people decide that we would like to go down into the lower frequencies and experience the lower frequencies because we have always known the higher frequencies. Now Gaia, it's not that there are all these different planets. It's only one planet, as there is only one of each of us. But that one, well, actually, planet with people, it's a little different because we have different incarnations. But it's still us. We've got the one soul, and Gaia has the one soul. And so Gaia, as an intelligent being, wanted to experience being a third dimensional being. And she has now completed that experience. And so she's going back up to the being that she's always been. And it's not that there are different ones, because they're all connected. But you can't perceive them unless you have the state of consciousness to be able to perceive them. With your third dimensional consciousness, you can perceive the third dimension. With your fourth dimensional consciousness, that's your dreams and your higher creativity, you can perceive that. With your fifth dimensional consciousness, then you can perceive your light body, you can perceive Gaia's light body. Gaia has a body made of light, just like we have bodies made of light. We are a component of the planet. And Gaia is us. And as we move towards more and more into the fifth dimension, we release that old third dimensional program of separation limitation. And we move into that fifth dimensional program of communication, unity, and blending. And as we blend more and more, then we can go into higher and higher frequencies, because we don't. If you have one ball, one big ball, you can throw that one big ball, it will all go in one place. But if you have 50 balls, and they're all separate balls, and you throw them, they're all going to go in different places. But if you take all these 50 balls and you put it in one big ball, they're all going to go to the same place. What do you think of that? That's kind of a unique analogy.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think it's an important point about the microcosm and macrocosm. And, the deeper level of this question is that, we're all connected. And out of curiosity, what if we as a collective, even what we call light workers, those working for the advancement of, and the evolution of humanity, what if we said, no, thanks, I think we don't want to play that game? What if we all said that? Would there truly be a danger then of not returning to that higher state of consciousness?
Well, definitely the ones who said that. I mean, the reality, we are the creators. Our higher selves would always, we can't harm our higher selves. Our higher self is like a little baby and an infant. in a little carriage. And that little baby in the carriage can't hurt anybody. It's a little baby inside of a carriage. So we're kind of like little babies inside of this earth carriage. Now, if you had 3 or 4 little babies in that earth carriage, then they might hurt each other. And that has a lot to do with, like in dense populations, there's often more violence because there's more people crammed up against each other and less space where they can go off on their own for a self and take a breath and be with nature and say, whew, I got really upset there. I need to calm down and find my center. But it's hard to find your center if there's people teeming everywhere. So, and there are civilizations that are like that every street is always filled with lots of people. But a lot of those have, like India, have gurus, and everybody has a spiritual life. And they have learned that in order to live at that kind of density, they have to have a spiritual life. Because that's how they find that oneness, that sense of their self. So, okay, did we answer all of that question, you think?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's about, like you said, the return to higher states of consciousness, and it's about calibrating to that higher consciousness.
Yes, it's about calibrating our consciousness. The frequency, it's like if you go to television and you push for channel 2, you're only going to see the shows on channel 2. If you want to know about the shows on channel 13, you have to push channel 13. So if you only want to know about the third dimension, you push the little button in your consciousness that says third dimension. That's all you see. But this is where you get different than a television. Because if you push the button for the fourth dimension, you can see the fourth dimension and the third dimension. If you push the button for the fifth dimension, you can see the fifth and the fourth and the third. Now, as you get into the sixth dimension and beyond, actually it starts in the fifth dimension. Because the fifth dimension is where separation and time begins to leave. And so it's a process of not having sequence. And if you don't have sequence, you don't have time. Because time is sequence, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And so when you don't have sequence, then everything is all within the now of the one. And so that's a completely different reality. And we were up there in the fifth dimension, and we said, hey, let's try the third and the fourth. And we did, and we said, okay, it's time to go back now. Okay, thanks everyone. Sorrow for the gravel Gertie, but I said I was going to talk to you, and then I was sick. And great talking to you. And we'll be doing these a bit, this is close to a half hour. That's long enough. And we'll be going through, and you gave us so many great questions. We can do this for a long time, and we'll just do them every now and again. Shawnna, do you have anything to add to all that?
Yeah, I think we'll just say thank you to everybody who's contributed, and whatever you ask, the other people have the same questions, so feel free to continue, finding out what might be helpful along your journey, and we're pleased to assist in this way. And I hope you'll join me in tuning to that 5D channel.
Yes, 5G channel rocks. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.